Right, guys, welcome back. This is the Above Average FPL podcast. My name's Adam, and as always, joined by Baker. Evening, mate. How you doing?
Very well, mate. Very, very well. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, and Merry Christmas to our friends at the FPL Last Resort who have joined us today for our Game Week 17 review, our Game Week 18 team selection thing, Saka replacement podcast. Basically, gents, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Cheers, Adam. And Baker. Thanks for having us on. I can't try to think when last time I was on. I think it was just you, Adam, maybe about six months ago. So I can't remember.
No, you've been on the season.
Have I?
I think we had pre-season.
You have.
Oh yeah, I was on pre-season. That's right. Yeah,
we definitely have done something this season.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, no, it's good to be back on as always. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and likewise, thanks for having us on. And I'm here to be sympathetic with Adam as the button pusher. You know, it's a hard job. It's easy being out front as the analyst guy, but some of us have to push the buttons. You know, thank you.
It is what it is. How's the week been? How's the game week been for you guys? Because it's been a story of sort of one or two players, really.
It's a big. I mean, it's a big points scoring week, isn't it? Because if you didn't captain Salah, then it's done. I mean, but I mean, like if you didn't, like if you captained Haaland, Palmer, or Saka. If you captain Isak, it's okay, isn't it? That's okay. But everything else is just permacap mo time, isn't it?
Or just permacap anybody that's playing Tottenham, basically.
Maybe that's the other option. So Chris Wood captain this weekend.
Chris Wood captain.
You don't need to give Chris Wood speeches, believe me. That's all our podcast is.
That's what you're here for.
I've been pushing Chris Wood since God knows how long, man. I just never have him in my FPL team. Never have him.
Yeah.
I appreciate the player.
Adam always wanted Chris Wood to be the backup to Harry Kane for many, many, many years.
Really?
When we were getting the Vincent Janssens, the Llorentes of the world, it's like, why don't you get Chris Wood?
He was there. He was there to be had.
He was there.
But no, decided not to.
First.
So where do we want to start? So we'll just go through the game week scores, and then we'll start working through. Basically, we'll start looking at the best Saka replacements following his injury, and we will look at primarily those games. We don't want this to be like 2 hours or anything like that. There's a lot to go through, and there's a lot going on. Obviously, Christmas time, so everyone's kind of pushed, but we obviously want to have a chat and find out, work out what we're going to do over the next few weeks. Game week's coming thick and fast. There's injuries. There's obviously new managers and stuff like that. There's potential bans coming for certain players. We'll talk about that. And so we've got some admin to do as well. But should we just dive? We'll just dive straight into the scores. I think more than anything.
If somebody's going to watch this on Christmas Day, if they're actually watching us on Christmas Day, send us a picture you're watching on Christmas Day, and we will do some coasters.
We can do that.
We'll do some coasters. Okay. When I say we, it's probably the royal we.
the royal we.
If you're watching this on Christmas Day, then that's ridiculous.
Well, I had coasters ready. I had coasters. Oh, you might notice actually, by the way, I got my nails done for today.
Beautiful.
Got my nails done. Nice
Beautiful.
green nails for the green arrow. No, the elf came last night and painted my nails, so that was a bit of a pain in the arse. If you have kids, you'll know what a pain in the arse that elf can be. But I've been told the kids were literally chanting in the car that I have to keep the nail polish on until Christmas Day. So it's just
that's fair.
Got to do that.
Rules are rules.
Right. So game week scores. We have got. We'll start with shall I start with me? I'm there. So I had Sanchez in goal. It's good. Hall, Gabriel.
Sanchez points.
Yeah.
Keeper points.
Big Sanchez points. Big Sanchez points. Hall with the late bonus point, which was very nice. Gabriel, Lewis. I'll explain that in a second. And then I've got Saka, Palmer, Mitoma, and Salah captain. Isak, João Pedro, and Wissa. And then Johnston, Pedro Porro on the bench. Rodgers on the bench with 14 points. And I've got Castagna third bench. So if you don't know what happened there, I was driving down south, and basically I planned a service stop on the way 15 minutes before the deadline. Got there, made the transfer of Leif Davis to Castagna. Amateur move, actually, not having Leif Davis already in my lineup, I should say. But he was third on my bench. And then I was thinking about going to Palmer Cap from Isak. And then I cancelled that. But I'd already changed Castagna in for Davis. And when I clicked cancel, Castagna went back to third bench. And so then right before the deadline, I changed it to Salah Cap, pressed confirm, phone down. And then when I opened my phone up again 20 minutes later, Castagna's sitting there third on my bench. And I'm like, I've messed this up. I've messed this up bad. So
let's discuss the treasury first, because I was made to feel quite guilty that I was captaining players against Spurs. I was made to feel quite guilty. I'm not doing it. You've done it again. You've done it both times, same as me.
Yeah, this one, there was a number of things that went through my head on this one. First was, again, thinking how bad Spurs' defence was, how many chances he was going to get. I didn't know whether he was going to be playing against a unfit Udogie or whether it was going to be Jed Spence. Secondly, the conversation we had about making sure that you just captain, if you captain the right player and your 10 players around you are better than everybody else's, like all those casuals and stuff type thing, made me think I'll just captain Salah so I don't risk that. And that was a last second thought. Weirdly and annoyingly, if I'd have capped Isak and actually played Castagna, I'd have been 2 points better off.
Yeah.
That's annoying. But here we are. 88 points, 300k green arrow, up to 1.1 million. We move. It's all good. On to you.
It's never bad, is it? Never bad. Yeah, for me, 95 points, which sounds ridiculous. It doesn't feel that good. I find myself every week thinking, this doesn't feel that good. I've got my double Arsenal defence conceding again because they never clean. I've got João Pedro being just, well, a better defender than some of our other defenders. Cunha sort of banned but not banned. Saka injured, but need to work out what to do with that. I've got no free transfers sitting around. I benched Rodgers. So it all felt like it was quite bad. And at the end of it, I was like, God, I've got 95 points. It can't be too bad. It really can't. So yeah, Isak and Salah, though, is the majority, isn't it? And then yeah, Cunha, Colwell with some nice little additional points, and Robinson on the cleans for me on Sunday. So all good. Yeah, if you're not bothered about a 14 point on your bench, then it must be an okay week.
We'll pass it over. So Danny, go to you, mate.
Yeah, similar story really. So I won't talk for too long. I just it feels like, I mean, we're so spoiled, aren't we? Some of us. Baker saying he didn't feel very happy with 95. I feel bad. Anyone watching this pod who doesn't have, Salah in their team, for example, it's just it's such a blow. But I think few of us have managed to land on the main each week. There's kind of main spots you just want to land on. It's this week. It's been Isak and Salah, and kind of everything I'm doing around it isn't necessarily helping. Like bringing Robinson in so I can bench Hall and just kind of surviving despite the transfers. But been lucky enough to hit those major points each week, and then probably the 1 or 2 weeks where I've not hit the right captain, nobody has, because I don't know. It was like Palmer, I think, wasn't it, or someone blanked a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So definitely can't complain. Not particularly exciting at the moment, but team looks solid. Apart from the fact that I've got Eze on my bench. I was going to second bench anyway. I was being ruthless about it, and I think that's where I was at. I'm not happy about Eze. I know he says apparently he's injured and all this sort of stuff, but he'd had 2 59-minute subs in a row, fairly inexplicably. And I'm just not having. This isn't the season to mess around with players for me that got dodgy minutes, or we don't really know how long they're going to play. I can't stand seeing your player come off the pitch at 60 minutes, 70 minutes. You're just sitting there like on a Saturday, and all you want to do is follow the scores, and you're hoping your player scores. I hate even having to check. Like on Saturday, I was worried that Wood was going to come off.
When you see him warming up, when you see the guys warming up, and they start doing the tracksuit, you're like,
yeah. And I think I've become more and more kind of obsessive about that. And it's just like, why am I going to make that choice? Why have we got people like Eze in the team, and then you're suddenly missing people like Mbuemo so much, who I can't wait to get back in. So I was second benching him anyway, so he took away my satisfaction of benching him. But again, my transfers weren't very good in hindsight. Won't talk about them too much, but I did sell Rodgers. I did it because at the time, because of Eze, I felt like I was going to have. It wasn't like I felt Enzo was a much better player than Rodgers. In fact, I did say on our pod that objectively Rodgers was the best kind of mid all round, but that I might need to play Enzo every week for the next 6, 7, 8 weeks. And obviously they have really good fixtures for all that time. And obviously this was before Saka got injured, so that's now changed everything again. So I wouldn't. I probably wouldn't have started Rodgers anyway because I nearly started Hall, so I probably would have started Hall and benched Rodgers even if I'd have kept him. But yeah, other than that, just fairly uninteresting stuff. Trent didn't get as many points as he maybe could have got. Arsenal defence letting us down again a little bit. Saka's really disappointing because a lot of people just don't have him, and he's like 3 really good fixtures now. He's blanked, and now he's injured for what look like good attacking fixtures. But again, put that behind because this opens up some opportunities that I'm sure we'll discuss today. So yeah, pretty happy with the team moving forward. It's pretty robust. And my intention is to make it more robust.
Just to ask, because we have to talk about replacements and stuff. But Adam, any free transfers in the bank?
No.
Same on me. Danny?
Not now. Having made my transfer on Sunday.
Oh, okay. So you got no transfers in the bank, or you still got one?
I've got none.
Ooh, tasty. Richie?
3.
Yeah. And how's your team looking?
Yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, I think some similar. You'll notice there that, I mean, we're fairly similar minded. Perhaps that's one of the issues with our pod is that Danny and I probably agree on too much, if anything. But I do have the worst pick in the game, Rico Lewis. So there is something between us at least. Yeah, it's fine. I think just looking at the kind of game week past, the obvious issues there are, I mean, we both like Cunha, Danny and I, kind of from our teams, and the owners, I feel a great deal of anger and antipathy towards, and those scumbags who are backing glasses thieves and bullies, that sort of thing. Horrible humans. But yeah, disappointed about Saka, obviously, because he's one of those people that, I mean, probably like the rest of you, no interest in replacing at all. He was there until next wild card, just wasn't interesting at all. So a tricky decision. But yeah, there's really no great risks there in the whole squad except for Lewis, really. So he's the only one, and even that, frankly, could wait until a week or two's time. So fairly happy with it. It's just a bad decision, bad outcome anyway with Rodgers. And that decision was 50-50 pretty much until deadline. So took the wrong side of that one and played Enzo. But what can you do?
That's it with Saka, because people have been moving Saka out. Like since Arsenal's attacking data has dropped, right? There have been people that have been making those moves. So it's almost now that this is obviously a trigger point where people are actually just going to move away to it. So you might find that those people that moved away before might now be a transfer ahead, and that is a little bit frustrating. There's a bit of fortune in there for that, but no, I mean both your teams are obviously really solid. I think as a group of 4 of us, we did all right. 85 plus across the board. For anyone wondering why there's no ranks up here, Richie doesn't look at his rank, so that's what we do. We just get people on that don't look at their ranks all season. There's yourself, there's Ivan.
Yeah. I want to thank you, first of all, Adam, and apologise. I'm basically a kind of weak-minded manager who needs to hide behind as many sort of barriers as possible to avoid making bad decisions, and even still, it still happens. So yeah, no, I don't check, although it is very hard work, as anyone who knows. It's every app shows it straight front and centre. So thank you for protecting my dignity.
You're welcome. Cool. So that's those. We'll do just a little bit of admin. So for anybody that's watching, thank you very much. Merry Christmas to you, and hope you're enjoying the holiday season. If you would do us the kindest of gifts and dropping us a like and a subscribe on the channel, that would be wonderful if you do like the content that we do. And also, why don't you share that love with the guys over at the FPL Last Resort? Head over to youtube.com /@FPL Last Resort, and you'll go and find Danny and Richie. And you just are you pair? You're a pair, aren't you? You were 3 and now you're 2, or?
Yeah, we are a kind of pair. In fact, the only one with a decent set of views, strangely enough, was just me and Danny. So I know what this says about our choice of guests. Baker, if you do come over, we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's What I would say to anyone is keep your expectations low. It's a no frills pod, which means I haven't set it up to be all techie and cool and anything. But that's very kind of you for the shout out.
You're welcome, mate. You're welcome. You'll get there. Don't worry. We're never going to go on YouTube pod. That was us.
And I'm never doing YouTube. You've gone straight into that.
So yeah, that's where we are. But if you do, if you do like our content, and then do feel free to hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more. And if you want to join us over on Patreon, you can do so at patreon.com/above average FPL, where we've got the Beat Baker Never Say Die Bourbon competition, which is happening every single month this season. And we've got, 2 game weeks left of the season. So if you want to get in there, you need to basically have 300 points or more at the moment. Baker's having a really good month. And, you can scan the QR code. And tomorrow is Christmas Eve. The day after is Christmas Day. There is 50% off on the Patreon until Christmas Day for your first month. So if that floats your boat, then head over to patreon.com/above average FPL. We'll see you there. We're playing games, having fun, winning whiskey, free coasters, all that good stuff. And then over to our mini leagues. So we've got the public league, which closes 2 new entries at the game week 19 deadline. So the code for that is MGORK2. That's GORK. So MGORK2. And that is Alex, who is currently leading that one on 1,244 points. He is currently 4th in the world. Although I did have a little check, and he has used his free hit, triple captain, and bench boost. So he's there.
Oh, his season's over.
He's there to be chased down.
It's 1,244 points, but his season's over.
He's there to be chased down. So the rest of the top 5, David Westrope, 1,215 points in second. I've got a really bad monitor, so if I get names wrong here, I apologise. Relda, I think it is. Is it Relda? I think so. 1,210 points in third. Jason, 1,210 points in fourth, and Chris Costa in fifth, having just played his wild card, 1,208. And over on the Patreon League, which is our Discord League, Yogesh is still flying in the top 700 there with 1,186 points. Craig Buckingham, second, 1,167. Luke Curtis, third, 1,150. Richard Mellor, 1,148. And Mark Brignall, 1,145. The rest of the top 10s are on the screen. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see your names there if you're in it. If not, then do better, basically. Where do we want to start?
I don't think we've ever been in the top 10 of the Patreon League, by the way. We're in that league. I don't think either of us have ever been in that.
What, like 2 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, I must have
You must have been after game week 2.
I was going to say, I must have been after game week 2. I was in the top 10K after game week 2. I had to be in there. I must have been top of it. I must have been top of it. But since then, no, we don't belong in there, mate. We don't belong in there.
Yeah, there's some good players.
So I think why don't we start with United? Because, and I'm going to say this because one transfer has already been made between the 4 of us, and there's a Saka replacement. So we'll start there.
We know where he's gone. Look at his face.
So predictable, aren't I?
Where have you gone, Danny?
Gone to you, man.
Ahmad?
Nope.
Camacho?
Nope. Not Rashford, who I started the game week 1.
What is going on there with the Rashford, Garnacho, Ahmad? And it's Bruno, obviously, that you've gone to.
It's Bruno that I've gone to. You mean what's going on the pitch or off the pitch?
Yes. What's your view?
Well, obviously it's very difficult at the moment to kind of read what's going on the pitch. I mean, to know what Amiron's thinking or doing, and obviously, he's experimenting a lot and changing things kind of week by week. But to me, it's looking like it's, the plan is making a little bit more sense, or in his mind, I suppose, and what he wants to do. I've got Bruno in. And I think the major worry for anyone who's getting Bruno in, which is fair, is there is a reasonable chance that he will go back to sort of playing number 6 or a defensive midfield role. I'd probably generously kind of objectively put that at maybe 30% chance in my head, because I do think you need to acknowledge that there is a very real chance of it. Because I remember kind of interview with him a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, when he played in there and he talked about the usefulness of Bruno in that position, what he can do in that position, and his long passing and that ability to sort of play over the top and play direct. But for me, Bruno's just much better in the front three. He's actually looked good, and he looked good again on Sunday, even though we lost 3-0. It wasn't actually that bad a performance. I mean, we probably were slightly the worst team against Bournemouth overall on balance. It wasn't a 3-0 game. We could have easily scored in the first half. But to me, probably it's hard to not cover so many topics at once, but I think what makes sense to me very much so is that the future is Mainu in the middle as one of the two in the six, who's kind of a bit more of a playmaker or an all-rounder and can do a bit of everything, and probably partnered by whether it's Ugarte or Casemiro or someone in the future at number 6. And those kind of forward positions, which Ahmad was in again on the weekend, and obviously Bruno was, are really kind of specialised roles for these kind of twin tens. I think you have to be, positionally very clever and disciplined, and you have to be able to press, but you have to be able to make the right decision and be efficient. The type of thing that Mount is, which is why Mount seemed to be favoured, early on. The type of thing that Bruno can be. I'm not convinced entirely that Ahmad can do that yet. He might be able to. He has been very good. And obviously, I guess the manager thought the same because he was playing Mount there. And Bruno, that was where we sort of had a couple of weeks of that. Because I think Mainu, because he's young and inexperienced, we say young, he's 23, but I think he's quite a late developer. He's quite he's not played a lot of first team football and so on, for United anyway. And he just sort of he's a very good technical player. He's a very good player. He's a little bit head down, running around all over the place. I think he's very useful as a wing back basically, because he does get right up and down. He causes the problem. He holds his width. He's very good at crossing. He's all that kind of stuff. It's kind of perfect for him. Whereas in that front 10, he's good. I'm just not sure that he's doing quite enough in terms of that's that kind of pressing and being in the position in the kind of right place. So my prediction would be that, and again, I know we'll talk about the Bournemouth game, and I'm kind of going ahead thinking about what it's going to look like next week. But I would have thought that I hope that Bruno stays in that front 10, possibly on the right, and that Garnacho might get his place back, because at least Garnacho, obviously seems to have been some problems off the field with Garnacho as well. But he seems to be getting another chance, and he's better in that position. I think he's a bit more reliable. He's a bit like Martinelli Garnacho in the sense that he's really energetic. He's a really good presser. He's very aggressive. He kind of attacks at the right times and all that kind of stuff. And he's just well suited to one of those front three positions. So yeah, in terms of what we saw on Sunday, it wasn't. I quite liked a lot of things that I saw, especially from Bruno. Actually, he's
really involved, isn't he? Like that's the thing with Bruno, is he will always be involved. I think Garnacho has to come. Like whenever you naughty step two people, it's like parenting 101. This, isn't it? It's like, I'm going to naughty step both of you, and then what I'm going to do is then play that one off against that one. So what I now need to do is champion Garnacho, and Garnacho knows it too. So he's like, Marcus, I'm not with him. So you'll do the thing of like, I've got to get Garnacho, because if he doesn't get him in, then two people actually is a big problem. And Garnacho is the one you want to favour. He's younger, he's got a long contract, all the stuff. Rashford's the one they want off the wages anyway. So it's nice and easy by almost making more an example of Rashford by championing Garnacho. So I do think he does come in, but like you say, it'd be slightly better on that position. My concern is that even if he starts that position, are Man United good enough to win games? Because if they're not good enough to win games, there's only one position now that Bruno goes, and that's backwards. So if you look at any of it across this chart, what he does is become less and less involved. He had a shot right at the end of the game, which is just like a cross into the body. But all of his good chances, and he had 7 shots for like 0.5 xg, but realistically, like the majority of that's in that first half. Like he had the 2 shots right before the start of the first half, and it's like, well, if you go 3-0 down, we have to keep chucking more forwards on, and then what happens is you'd have to take off the midfielders. So he goes back and he goes back and he goes back, and you're like, you want Bruno to be good. Like if Man United are good, Bruno's even better, isn't it? We all remember the Bruno goals that happen in the 90th minute when you've already won the game and the other team chases it, and he's always there for the break for it. Like Bruno probably has shit the majority of his points on breaks, 80 minutes plus.
Bournemouth were probably one of the worst teams we could have faced really at the moment as a kind of as a team that are trying to figure out themselves out and positionally and learning all this new sort of stuff. You came up against a team that probably one of the best pressing teams in the league. They're really intense and they really know what they're doing. It probably couldn't have couldn't have been any worse really in terms of what we faced. And we still did well, but that is the worry. Every time the pressure builds, like you say, Baker, if we start losing games, you worry that he's going to go back. So there's an element of a leap of faith in United in there. And it's the other players that need to step up, Mainu, and whether it's Casemiro or Ugarte, that centre midfield, they need to be able to dominate that midfield, and we do need to figure out, the wing back positions and so on. But I still think we've looked all right, I still think still think there's promising signs.
So you're in on Bruno.
Yeah.
I'm on the fence. I think there's nothing wrong with Bruno pick. Like I can't pick any holes in it really. Like it's a good pick. It's always gonna be a good pick. It's a good price. I've got no issues with it. Richie, Adam?
Well, for me anyway, the first thing I did after the kind of Saka news was just have a think to myself, every week when I have a think about what players do I worry about every week, what are the players that concern me not owning and that I just can't fit in. And the first name that springs to mind, even with all of their problems, is Bruno. I don't worry about. I have a few other names that I'm looking at, and but realistically, none of them are people that I would immediately, not. I think about them not being in my team, and he's probably one of the only names that I think about not being in my team, if that makes sense. So there is that. I think he still looked pretty good to me. I mean, every kind of United fan that I've spoken to since the weekend was not as downbeat as I thought that they would be. They seem to be relatively happy with their kind of chance creation and the fact that they were up and down. And, like Danny said, against decent opposition who are probably one of the worst teams to face. My one issue maybe with Bruno amongst anything else was two, actually, really. One is just simply the finishing around him. I think that's an obvious one. But the second one is the fixtures that a number of people think are pretty good. They don't look quite as good as perhaps they did before this round of fixtures. Wolves immediately, there's a bit of confidence there. And Newcastle just kept 2 clean sheets in a row. And then Liverpool, I don't really need to explain that. So for me, the Saka replacement issue is it does depend a little bit on how long term you're thinking, really. If he's out for a little while and you're happy keeping someone in there for a while, Bruno, great replacement. If you're thinking 3-4 games, there's more of a conversation to be had, I think.
Yeah, I think it depends on. I mean, it depends on like you were talking about some of the other players that you weren't quite as afraid of or not worried about, and I think that's probably because in the teams where those players are, there's a talisman or there's a player that is probably more prolific and more proficient and more. Whereas it doesn't really stick out at United. Still, it's not going. It hasn't really sort of stuck out. So Bruno is going to be the guy that is going to stick out as he's on set pieces. He's the guy, as Baker said, he's the guy that's always going to be there wanting to finish everything off in the last 10 minutes. So he's always going to be the one from a side. I think United, as Danny said, and speaking to United fans, I don't think they were as bad as maybe the numbers said here. It did feel a bit weird with Mazraoui and Dalot on the one side. That felt really imbalanced. So I don't know whether that is probably just part of the experiment. Definitely looked better to an extent against Spurs and better the week before against City when they were on sort of opposite sides. So maybe that's something that, I mean, obviously we're not going to know.
There, isn't he? And he might just buy someone next week.
Yeah.
I mean, left wing back's got to be like the first thing on the cards. Like, gotta get someone.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't mind Bruno as a pick. I think he's absolutely fine. I'm not sure I will go there, but I think he's probably one of the players that I would be maybe concerned about not owning. I think the entry point, as you say, Richie, I don't plan to game week 33 with my transfers. I don't do that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So when I'm looking in front of me and you go 4 weeks time, they've got Southampton. Perfect. I'll bring Bruno in then. That doesn't seem too bad. So they go Southampton, Brighton, Fulham, Palace as a 4-game run with 3 of them at home. That feels all right.
Yeah. We only get so many transfers. You know what I mean? And that stuff. But I think if I had 3 in the bank, I think I would get more creative than than Bruno. That's my feeling on it. For me, I've got. So the context on me is I've got Bumo still, and 21-22 he plays City and Liverpool, and I'm just looking at it and saying, well, I might as well keep Bumo now, get the Southampton game out of the way, and if I have to keep Bumo, then I wouldn't mind. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, because he normally will play up front in those games at home. But I do think he could also just be a Bumo to Bruno move in 21.
Part of the reason that, one of the things I've got in mind in terms of bringing Bruno in is thinking about, transfers and knowing that I'm going to need them in the future and not wanting to make them. I think that's really important, actually, for a number of reasons, never mind the Assman chip and so on, but we're really going to need transfers. But I want Bumo back in immediately. And so one of the things that Bruno allows me to do is to get Bumo back in alongside him. But
that's the thing. That's the thing, and it's £2 million basically.
It's £2 million, yeah. And Rich is right. The fixtures don't look great. There's definitely an opportunity. We'll talk about other players. There's definitely an opportunity to go elsewhere because I don't think anyone's scary. But it does look like with United that if we are going to score, it does look like he'll be sort of involved. Like we kind of need him to be, because everyone else there, we've got these two big strikers who are like facilitators. In Hoyland or Xerxes and so on. They're just big, just kind of big brutes. You've got Garnacho, just really aggressive presser, and Ahmad, who's a creator and stuff. And it is Bruno who's getting in the position. He looks like he knows that he's the one who needs to score. And he very nearly scored. If he'd had a better pass on Sunday, there was a time when he was kind of through. He did about as well as you could possibly do with the finish, to be honest, because it was a terrible pass to him. He still very nearly scored. And he had a couple of good shots on the edge of the box as well. But so yeah, I know what you're saying. It's like he's not an exciting pick, but he's a solid pick for sure, I think.
And like I won't back you looking at most of these weeks coming up for cleans, and therefore, like if he does score, it's double digits, isn't it? It's going to be double digits probably every week. You look at Wolves, Newcastle, Liverpool next 3 games. I don't think there's cleans there.
No, it's unlikely. If Cunha gets a ban, we might have a chance, but I don't think that's going to come anytime soon.
Yeah, if Cunha gets a ban, suddenly it's a funny, interesting one, actually. If Cunha does get the ban, then that would potentially sway me a lot more Bruno's way. I think if it's first game at home for Pereira and Cunha's there, I wouldn't be surprised if Wolves won that. So yeah, that will be there. All right, next.
I was going to say, any more on Bournemouth, though? Like we've spoken a lot about Man United, and Bournemouth have won this game 3-0.
If you got them, you don't buy them, but you don't sell them. But Palace, Fulham, Everton, next 3 is still good, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, next 3 are good. Next 3 are good. Couple of them dodgy ones, but 25 onwards, really nice. And again, if you're looking at the Assman chip, right, then you don't want to move on your Bournemouth players. You just want to keep them through that period, and then go through. So anyone that's still holding on to Semenyo seems okay.
Well playable.
Kluivert, there's a few. There's not many with Kluivert, but on pens.
But he got a little bit more minutes as well. Didn't get taken off after 63 minutes, so he was there. He won the pen, got the pen, great at pens, and then Hoyson and
the Housen one. I mean, that's like United have been particularly bad at set pieces.
Good header though.
Clever, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's clever.
Did you think it was a foul? I mean,
soft.
Fair enough. Yeah,
soft.
Cool. Let's go.
Who's going where?
I don't mind, mate.
What's on it? Who are you looking at?
Well, I was originally I was looking at Foden, and then someone said, "No, let's go Son," and then now that person that said Son is now going to Foden, I think. So we might as well go to City.
Oh, you want to push me? You want to push me on young Philip?
Philip, yeah.
Yeah, let's talk Philip.
Let's talk Philip. Let's talk Villa, because the boys are on the thumbnail. The boys are on the thumbnail. John Duran again. Just starts another game, scores again. Actually plays better as well this game, I thought.
I mean, as what you said is, what if he's just better?
Yeah.
Now Danny is Ollie Watkins' biggest fan.
I know.
Biggest fan.
We've got the tapes, mate. We've got the tapes. You couldn't mould a better fantasy player with pretty much the words.
I Yeah, I think I said that before last season, and then he went on to get what 270 points or something.
What's
But
happened?
I don't know what's happened. I don't know there's something going on. I don't know. I mean, is there something going physically? Is he not fully fit? I
Do you know
mean,
what I was thinking the other day? Why doesn't someone come and try and buy him in January? Because they're
well,
still stuffed
United.
on FFP. They're still stuffed on it.
I'm hoping United going for him. I really am.
I'd be
That'd
amazed
be
if someone
mad.
doesn't put a cheeky odd. And if someone does come in for Ollie Watkins, we're all getting John Duran.
Was he
Yeah, I mean,
5'8", 5'9" still? Mad.
Duran's a good player, but they miss so. I know it was okay against City. It sounds silly to say that, doesn't it? But you can set up in a fairly, with City, you can set up in a fairly predictable way. They just can't do anything about these direct balls, these kind of balls through the middle that you just get Tielemans to just spin on the spot and send one through, which is exactly what he did. And you've got Rodgers and Duran running onto it. I don't really know what that tells us about, for Villa in other games, but I don't know if Watkins just needs some love. I don't know if he knows if he needs to just know that he's the main man who's always going to get 90 minutes. Because for the last 3 or 4 years, it doesn't matter when Grealish was there, when anyone was, even when Grealish was still there and was absolutely incredible, Watkins was the one who made it all tick. You just had to play him 90 minutes every single game because he's unbelievable. He's so hard to defend against, and he's just so big and strong and fast. And I just think he's just such a brilliant striker. So there's something missing, there's something wrong with Watkins. But in terms of a long-term view, it's genuinely not close between Watkins and Duran as players. And that might sound like hyperbole. I know Duran's he's a great looking player. He's obviously got a brilliant finish on him. He's a brilliant shot from anywhere. He's obviously a very good player, but I still don't think he's close to Watkins as a player. So I don't know what's going on there, which is why I wouldn't go anywhere near Duran unless Watkins was sold.
We're one game away though. Newcastle away. Once that's out of the way, Brighton home, Leicester home, Everton away, Arsenal away, West Ham home, Wolves away, Ipswich home, Chelsea home, Palace away. That's like this is some of the things about you guys. Have you both sold Rodgers? Have you still got him?
No.
So
Richie's still got him, yeah.
He's still got him. So it's just anyway. Like we need to be thinking about how we play him. And maybe it's João Pedro. Like maybe that's the way that we use him. Because the next two after this are obviously Villa away. That's an interesting one. Obviously, that João Pedro's there. And then when João Pedro's home to Arsenal, but Rodgers home to Leicester, maybe he's the full guy for it. But also maybe Rodgers is the way that we accumulate some more transfers. Just keep playing him more because he's really, really playable.
I wouldn't want to be playing him every week. I've got to be honest. Sorry, Rich. I'll let you say it because you're the one who still owns him. But I did kind of very consciously sell him, knowing that it's 20 against Leicester at home. Like you say, I think there's a rotation with João Pedro there. That was the one that really worried me because it just stands out, and that's what.
But 23, 24, 25, West Ham, Wolves, Ipswich. You're playing.
Yeah, it's a bit of a way away, but yeah. I still just think I still just think he's just a very good eighth attacker. I don't think we shouldn't get carried away this game against Man City. Like he's what you can still tell with Rodgers, which might be a long-term thing, is that we talk about all the time in terms of who's a type of fantasy pick. We'll talk about that when we talk about people like Odegaard compared to someone like Bruno, someone who's kind of Rodgers does everything other than kind of go out to games to get goals and assists. I mean, he was actually really surprised and impressed with himself that he scored that goal. He said after the game, he was like,
"Yeah, but he could have scored five, mate. He could have scored five."
Exactly. But he said the thing I was most happy about was that I actually managed to put that chance away because normally that's where I have a bit of a weakness where I sort of think about it too much. So he's just with all the players that we've got, especially with Saka injured now and that extra cash available and that extra spot available. And that's basically why I was comfortable selling him because I wouldn't want to be starting him every week. And actually, if any week I was starting him, I'd still be looking at my team thinking it's Rodgers. I'm expecting, it's 1 in 4 chance of me thinking, getting a return here. That's what I'm thinking. But yeah, Rich, you still own him. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think actually something Baker said was really important here, which is, your instinct, Baker, was that actually this was a pretty good fixture for Rodgers, and I think actually this is one of the things that I feel like we're starting to get the hang of is knowing a little bit better about when you do play him. And I think instinctively a lot of us were thinking actually I don't really want to bench him this week. And what's been difficult in the first sort of 10, 15 game weeks, I think, is is this feeling of, I think it's Prass, isn't it, that was saying kind of, oh, his average of when he's been on his bench is about 2 or 3 times when he's actually started it, and that kind of thing. And that's obviously a difficult thing. So we are starting to get used to a little bit about when to play him. But if I'm absolutely honest, it's still in my mind that I might get rid of him, which I know seems a bit harsh after this week. Obviously, what was it, 14 points? But at some point, I will need to upgrade one of Enzo, João Pedro, and Rodgers. It's almost certainly not going to be Rodgers, but it is still on the table simply because someone will need to go up now. There is the money there, and I don't want to be going in thinking that I'm going to be playing two of my kind of £5 million players. So he's still on the table, but obviously there's no rush, and I'm very pleased that he's done well. But yeah, I think no one can beat themselves up about benching him too much. It's the reality.
But if Duran plays more, the difference is we, as a pod, like literally, me and Adam every week we'll be like, we'll go look at the pod and say, oh, we literally say it all the time. It's the Ollie Watkins team. It's the Ollie Watkins team. It's like a funnel around and it all ends up there. The difference with Duran is Duran actually does a lot of 10 work. He's not a pure 9, Duran. Not like Ollie is so they're not direct comparisons. You think about a lot of the times that last season he would come on and he actually would drop into the 10 and he bangs. You know what I mean? And he is he's like it's more like it's got some more sort of like Gibbs Whitish guy, where he's not really like he's going to hit it rather than he's looking necessarily for the go wide and pass stuff in. He does drop into those holes, which means that often they tandemed a bit more. I felt like than he did necessarily. When you feel like when it's Watkins, it's like always everyone must get the ball to Watkins. If Watkins isn't starting, Rodgers will score more goals.
Yeah, and also Watkins, Watkins, as much as I praise him, he has been off form, and he hasn't been, he's a bit of a confidence player, and his finishing hasn't been. You think back to this towards the start of the season, I can think of a couple of occasions easily where Watkins missed absolute sitters that Rodgers had actually
right there, wasn't he?
Yeah,
right there, right standing behind him.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
Yeah, or that Rodgers had put through to him on a plate, even for the assist. Whereas you do think at the moment, one thing Duran's got is an absolute finish on him, an absolute bullet. So it just has to be Rodgers, who just happens to be the one who passes to him before he shoots, really.
But they'll share that a little. That balance of who takes the shot will even out slightly more with them than it would do, where it'd be like 90%. It's always going to be Ollie. I remember there was one early season one where it clearly Watkins should have just let it go, and Rodgers could have put it in. And Rodgers tried to have a go at him, and Watkins looked at him like, "What are you talking about, mate? What you do? I'm number 9, mate. Like, what are you doing? Like, it's interesting if this continues. And Rodgers is young. Like, we are still a penalty away from Rodgers being an £8 million midfielder. That's all we are. Is from looking at this as an asset. The difference is at the moment is ain't got a set place.
Well, who takes pens when Watkins isn't on the pitch? Because Tielemans took
where it goes back to Tielemans, but he missed.
Is it?
John Duran's taken a pen before.
Oh, is he?
In Europa, yeah. So we don't know, but we don't know. Like, he's stepping up. Like, he's young. Like he is moving through gears.
And there was a lot of chat. There was a lot of chat. He had a lot of things to say about, obviously he was at City previously, and he was talking about, like, developmentally it wasn't right for him to be there, but the opportunity allowed him to, to take the step to Villa and make this position his own type thing. So, he wants to be the golden boy, doesn't he? He definitely wants to be the golden boy, and he's definitely got belief in himself. And
we've basically just spent about 7 or 8 minutes, and we haven't mentioned Man City.
But I think, Richie mentioned, like, we're thinking about the games where someone like Rodgers would excel. And when you look at a midfield of Gundogan, Bernardo Silva and Kovacic, you just go, well, people are just going to run through that midfield all day, every single time. Like, I look at those three and I think that's a midfield that you feel like would be good 15 years ago, when you think now the level of the Premier League players now, they're just quicker. Everyone's just faster. And Rodgers did it numerous times, just literally running through them. Don't even have to pass past them.
Yeah.
Like, you just run past them and he's off. So, but you said probably quite rightly, I mean, like, Foden had 6, 7 shots.
Yeah, low value. They're the Foden shots, and they're 20, 25-yard shots. That's what he does. Just tries to drive them, keep them low.
Apart from the little bundle. I mean, even the goal was clumsy though, wasn't it? It was like Diaz falling over on his arse and all this sort of stuff, and it just sort of popped up to him, and away it went. But
yeah, so I am very interested in Foden. We spoke after the Manchester derby about the fact that he looks like he's playing for himself. Like, and he's the one that he's sticking on the pitch. So if you take out, he missed 2 games with bronchitis a few weeks back. But if you take that out, bronchitis. I mean, it was only 4 days between each game, so that is a pretty fair game of that. But we do have before that a month of a mystery illness, which we still never got anything from it. So he hasn't been injured this season. We've had a mystery illness and we've had bronchitis.
Well, we had those early comments, didn't we? It was probably about 6 weeks ago now, when Guardiola said when people are clever or when they're up here, and it was something that referred to the naughty step.
But around that, the minutes are ridiculous. Like he isn't just playing 50 minutes here or cameos here. We've got 179. Other than that, we've got 690s.
Yeah, the question is, which I don't really know the answer to, and that's what I think, because it is. I'm not going to sit here like I normally do and kind of rule out Foden and say don't players who play and just don't go near Foden, because at least, like we said, there's no one that jumps out. There is an opportunity there. It's not like anyone terrifies you. Even Bruno or anyone, Odegaard, they don't terrify you. And obviously, City have got Everton at home, which, to be fair, Everton are unbelievable one, but it's still a good fixture. But Everton, Leicester, West Ham, Brentford, Ipswich. So they are unbelievable fixtures. So if and again, some people it depends what position you're in, and you might want to chase a bit, but there's definitely an opportunity there. But the big question is what's going on with De Bruyne? Because in my mind, I'm saying to myself, well, why wouldn't Foden play every game? I don't really know what the answer to that is, because it seems logical that he would.
0 minutes too.
Well, De Bruyne's played no minutes, and I was just having a look then, because I never one of the only predicted lineup teams I never look at is Man City's, because I never own any Man City players. So I'm not interested. But I just had a look now, and Neil's prediction for last week, which is probably aligned with Luke's in some way, is had Foden not to start because it had De Bruyne to start. So that would be a big worry to me, because in my mind, again, as we always do, we always look at Foden and think, but it's logical. He should be playing. It's Phil Foden. He's great. He scores hat-tricks every game, but the same processes don't apply to Guardiola's head and what he thinks about Phil Foden, and we don't know what Phil Foden's doing. So that's a bit worrying. What he wasn't predicted to start last game, and what's going on with De Bruyne. Because if De Bruyne was out of the picture, you'd feel a lot more comfortable.
Yeah. I think with Foden, look, you're going to have to take some price drops if things are going around, but he's not going to rise, is he? There's no rise coming in for Phil Foden before this deadline. You are hoping there's a leak, and there's not been leaks on cities. We need FPL Tony to get himself back in the game, but if there's a leak that Foden's starting, I'm definitely interested in there. For 2 reasons. One is I just trust Phil Foden, and we are talking about 200, just about Watkins. It's the same deal. It's a 220-point player from last season. It's not a punt for those guys. If they're playing, he's a very, very good FPL asset. And he's got Everton, Leicester, West Ham, and then he's got Mark Flecken, and then he's got Ipswich. And that 3-game run comes so quick. It's like gone in a week. It's done. It's not like you're sweating on it for months. Done in a week. And if it's not right, because you've sort of kept the money there, you have the opportunity to pivot. I always thought we've got unlimited transfers, but I still think high value transfers are worth a lot more than your flex, your little things that work around it. So I look at it and say, look, if that 3-game week doesn't work out, I can literally just go Bruno in 21 and get the Southampton, Brighton, Fulham run. I can take that. If Gordon looks like the boy, I can go Gordon and go Wolves, Bournemouth, Southampton, Fulham, and say, here's my man. If I'm really, really clear on who the Liverpool guy is, I can go Forest, Brentford, Ipswich, Bournemouth into a double. Fantastic. I'm almost, by keeping some money and not spending all of it there, having the ability to then go somewhere else is easier. So it's nice having flexibility in transfers. It's also nice having money.
This is also
looking here with Saka being able to go, we can go wherever we want. He's the next slight cap down.
I was just going to say, I don't think you've only got one transfer, haven't you, Baker? But
I have, yeah.
this is a good example where we can think now about where we haven't been able to in previous seasons of if you had like 3, 4, 5 transfers.
Yeah.
It would definitely make it more appealing because the bottom line is Phil Foden, whether he's a problem this week or next week or the week after, is basically always going to be a problem. And I really do think that's what
Unless he's not.
Yeah, no, but we've
Because
said
he
that
is a
for years.
220-point
Yeah,
player.
he did that once.
Last season, he's the best midfielder in the league.
Yeah, absolutely.
The best midfielder. Like,
Yeah.
he's the man. Him and Saka are there as the boys.
And the
Like,
other 4.5 seasons, he's been a terrible pick.
But who gives a shit about 4.5 seasons? Like, you're talking to me like I care about somebody who got like 1K in FPL 5 years ago. I couldn't give a fuck if they were there.
No, but he's doing it again this season, isn't he? He's doing it again. He is doing it again this season, though. He's a problem this season again, isn't he? So
I think there's a big problem. It's more the City. I think this season it's more City,
are the
right?
problem.
City are the problem rather than the team, rather than the player. But
last season matters for me. This season matters. This season definitely matters.
But again, I think you can look at last season as well, though, and you can say the team thing as well, because certain players are in that position that allowed him to, you know, to express himself and to get those points. Like Rodri is a huge reason. Like he is a huge reason why Foden was able to do that. Regardless of whether it was Foden or KDB, Haaland scoring loads of points, Rodri helped that in a lot of ways. The fact that you know, we talk about Tottenham. I think we need to move to Tottenham, Liverpool next, but they're having a lot of defensive issues themselves as well. So it's not like it's just the midfield. You run through the midfield and they've got no one at the back either. They've got Kyle Walker, who's too busy trying to buy presents for his 400 kids or whatever. And you've got, he's got no centre backs. He's got Rico Lewis, who is like genuinely one of the most overhyped players I've ever seen. Who's pretty much good for a booking, and that's about it at the moment.
3 out of the 4 have got him.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So speech prepared.
It's all bad. Like it's all bad. And with no Ederson, no consistency from Ederson or having Ederson at all. Like everything just feels really toxic there at the moment. That's the whole thing. If we're talking about, I wouldn't go to Bruno because Man United aren't great. Like the Foden thing, because City are just horrific.
This is why none of us wanted to sell Saka.
Yeah,
like none of us wanted to go anywhere. And we went like, we can pick holes. Literally anyone can pick holes or make some crazy claim about any of them. What I do think is obviously Bruno is nailed, and you know what you're getting with him.
What one last thing, just I'll say on City as well, just from a personal kind of watching them in the last couple of games is, from what I've seen, one shining light at the moment that looks positive, one player who looks good to me at the moment, looks like he's about to go on a good trajectory because he looks sharp and he's making the right decisions. He's actually Grealish. I don't think he's ever been a FPL pick, but it does, the way he's playing rules out that position. I think for Foden, probably at the moment, that's what I would try and, that's what I would think. But
Richie, where are you sitting with it?
Yeah, if I could just add one thing, because it's relevant. I think Adam said we're going to the Spurs Liverpool game next, and this kind of little bit is relevant to that as well. I mean, I'm not going to completely dump on the Foden pick because I can see that the minutes are settled a little bit more, and he's obviously, you know, incredibly talented and the rest of it. But a simple rule I need to follow for my own sanity really is, if I need to wait and look for a league to buy a player in, I shouldn't buy that player. And that's relevant for Liverpool as well.
It's fair.
I don't think it's as an issue as, say, Jota, for example. Let's just put that one in another basket. My God, that man has caused me umpteen problems over the years anyway. But that's just a good rule for me. And as for Rico Lewis, I'm not going to spend too long on this because Danny and I have had many conversations and we've labelled him the worst pick in the game, and I'm just going to leave it there.
Will you be starting him though this weekend?
Well, this is the problem. Actually, this is exactly the point, and I'm glad that you mentioned it, Baker, because genuinely, maybe.
Yes, 1,000,000%.
Ridiculous.
You're definitely starting him.
But this is the only game where I could foresee he's going one way or another, because
that's not true. You have got Everton, then you've got Leicester away, West Ham home, and he's playing all 3 of them.
No way. He's going anyway. No, I owe it to myself and some kind of degree of dignity. But like, this is the week that's awkward because, as you say, you know what you're going to do. You're going to bring in Munoz against Bournemouth away. We've just seen what they can do. I've got Hall up against Villa. Well, maybe that's fine, but it's not a banker of a clean sheet, is it? So yeah, it's a tricky one, this one. But
If there's one team in the league, and this is just such a bizarre, who'd have thought we'd been saying this in December, if there's one team in the league that would struggle to score a goal against Man City, it's Everton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
So I guess I'll wait for the league.
Let's go to Spurs Liverpool because Boxing Day literally came early for this fixture. If no one's seen the Boxing Day fixtures yet this year, the
1968 or 1963 or something.
That jazz, yeah. Whereas about 1,400 goals. Imagine we'd done a fireball stream then.
Well, Tottenham. If there was 10 Tottenhams on that day, then no fireballs.
Yeah, Tottenham conceded 9 big chances in this game. Like, it was always going to end badly if that's what you're giving up. I mean, some of the goals we conceded just looked absolutely comical.
We chose. We've done it all season, so we didn't choose to stop doing it. But if you go, so we pressed with a 5-man press in the opponent's half, and we decided we'd carry on doing that. So we carry on doing that. Press the back 4 on Gravenberch, man for man, go all of it. So you then decide what you're going to do is play 5-a-side versus. So if Liverpool get past, it's 5-a-side. That's what this was. Game of 5-a-side. And they're better at it than us. It's just stupid. I mean, this is the thing. Like we always say this with Spurs is, if we don't do what we do, then we don't score 3 goals.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's scoring 3 goals against Liverpool. Like, no, the ridiculous part, no one talks about the fact that we scored 3 goals against Liverpool. This great league, this great team which no one can lay a glove on, and we scored 3 goals against them. But it's a system that's set up to score 3 and concede 6. It's stupid. It's just stupid. Like, but I don't know. Well, I don't think he'd know any other way. Like, he doesn't know how to try and do anything else, does he?
Yeah, exactly. And this is why I'm actually, like, as an FPL player, I'm really grateful for the existence of Spurs at the moment in the league, because they're one of the few teams that you know what you're going to get, And there are so many, when you're thinking about captain a player, especially if it's a good player from a good team like Mo Salah, there are so many of these.
And Cole Palmer a few weeks
Cole
before.
Palmer, exactly. But there are so many teams now. There are so many good teams in the Premier League. It's unbelievable, isn't it? And there was lots of these middling teams that are very good at defending, or you don't really know what you're going to get. You don't really want to captain anyone against, like, Fulham, for example, or
Everton.
Everton, absolutely, at the moment. These sort of teams, even Bournemouth away or something like that. They're really clever, smart teams, good at defending. You don't really know how they're going to set up, what you're going to get. Brighton. And that was why, again, I know everybody captained Salah this week, or the vast majority, but it wasn't a tiny bit of hesitation in my mind, because I knew exactly what Spurs were going to do, and that we just don't get that very often.
No.
And, I don't know if Liverpool also just kind of maybe slightly changed their approach because they know exactly what Spurs are going to do, and it was kind of like, well, we know what they're going to do, and maybe we shouldn't try and be tight and try and win this game 2-0 like we do all the others. Because if we go toe for toe, we can take them apart, basically, because we're probably better, all over the pitch. I don't know, but yeah, I mean,
that is interesting to read as well, isn't it? Because obviously Szoboszlai plays false 9, but Szoboszlai is the focal point of the attack. There, effectively, it's 3 guys behind Szoboszlai in Diaz, Gakpo, and Salah. Like, he's the furthest forward man at all times. Szoboszlai on this one, but he did it in pre-season. Like, if Szoboszlai somehow becomes the false 9 continually, week in, week out for Liverpool, he's the best pick in the game. Nobody's looking at him as a replacement.
Do you know how much he is?
6.7 or something like that. I think I still he was. I think it was something like that. I think it was something like that.
No one's looking at that. I mean, yeah, they're all 3 of the top 3 for XG came from this game. So Salah, Diaz, and Szoboszlai, all the only 3 players in the game week over 1 XG, all took place in this game. There was a lot of, as you say, it was very much 5-a-side, and they were able to pick off Spurs in places where didn't seem that dangerous. But then because of the way we were being aggressive, I think that one of the goals was, it must be the goal where Porro just went flying up the right hand side and Robbo robbed.
I mean, they targeted
Kulusevski.
Porro, mate. Like they targeted Porro bad.
But that's it. So you target that guy who is probably the most attacking and most experienced defender we got in there, and then you just run through the others because the others are just trying to, I don't know, kick it anywhere or not even kick it anywhere. And
so we've got to tackle this from FPL options. Where do we go with it? Because we've got Mo's just captain. That's the end of the day. That's what that is.
Well, you got five perfect. You've got 5 replacements in here you can talk about, I think.
Yeah. So let's do our Tottenham ones. Do you like Son, Maddo? Do you go anywhere near it? Kulusevski. Do you go anywhere near it?
You saying would I?
Yeah, anyone.
I mean, I've definitely considered Maddison.
Would Maddison be the one out of the ones that we've got?
For me, yeah. I mean, he's started. The minutes have started to be a little bit better, or the starts at least have been better. So knowing he's going to be on the pitch and he's going to be a beneficiary of this press. He always is, because when it's Solanke, causing that problem and there's like rebounds and stuff like that, it kind of just falls into Maddison. And then, as we've seen, he does like to make that run where Sarr or Basuma or Porro or whoever it is can find him over the top. So definitely an opportunity there. And the Kulusevski thing, I think he'll always just be so good at carrying the ball that he will always be on the ball. I think he's still a better option on that right hand side for us than Johnson. I think the almost experiment of having him at number 10, whereas I think he might be a better player in there. I don't think he benefits the team as much anymore. So I think because I think he offers more than Johnson does.
Yeah, and Brennan's better as an impact sub, really.
Yeah.
We're just a tough, and Forest away is a very tough entry point.
Yeah, the reason I haven't mentioned Son there really is I think a lot of people are trying to get back to Trent, and I think you have to free up enough money to make that happen.
These two, they've already got him. What do you think about that?
Real men never sold. Leave it there.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously, as someone who already owns Trent, I would be much more strongly considering Son if I knew what was going on with his minutes. But I don't really. And is it just that he's been managing an injury? Is it that he's a bit older and he doesn't? It must be. Yeah, he's a bit older. I mean, I guess. I don't know. They were 5-0 up and he came off at half time, didn't they? The week before last. Because I like Son, and I do. Again, we know what we get from Spurs as a defensive unit, but we also know what we get them as an attacking unit. So you go into games expecting to get goals against anyone.
I think given the situation, you'd pull off your best player, your most important player, or your best player, or your most experienced player at 5-0 up at half time, though, wouldn't you? I think game state more than anything that. I wouldn't read any more into that, is what I'm saying, than it was just 5-0 against the worst team in the league. So
yeah, fair enough. I mean, we didn't used to see a lot of that in the past, and often these sort of players not happy coming off, especially in a game that's 5-0, because Son could have got another as far as he was being concerned, he could have scored another hat trick in that game, or whatever. But I mean, his minutes have been all over the place recently, so you just can't go there. The only one to me whose minutes are secure in terms of reliable and 70 minutes or more every game is Solanke, and I do like Solanke.
Yeah, I still like it. Well, Kulusevski is the minutes man, really. If you really want to play, Kulusevski comfortably the minutes man. But he's not the fun. Son. Again, I still think this block of fixtures, Forest away is not good. But if you're making the entry, you've got to make the entry now. And then Wolves at home and Newcastle at home. They're okay fixtures. If you fancy the punts there, do I think with any Spurs player you'll be thinking, I think I'm going to have to move this one on the slot very quickly? Yeah, probably, because we've done that. Like me and Adam have had Son already this season. I've had Solanke twice this season. I've moved him on twice this season. And every time you move on, they'll score some goals, because they always will score goals. It's just quite hard to predict it. And there's 4 or 5 guys that can score goals. That's the tough part. Like it doesn't really surprise you if other people do. But I mean, Maddo's doing the points. Maddo, the thing if I went to Maddo is that Maddo means I can afford to do Rico Lewis to Trent for -4.
I think as well with Maddison, you don't need him to double digit every week, right? You just don't. And I've got players like I've got like Matoma in my side, which I think is okay. I think it's fine. Although we'll come to Brighton as why it might not be actually that fine.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's fine for long, but it'd be fine this weekend because you've got Mark Flecken.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's a whole thing on Brighton that I'm really concerned about. But yeah, I just think Maddison can tick over like a return every other week, which will be generally a high value return of some kind, right? It's going to be a 2-point assist or a 4-point assist or a 6-point goal.
He will get bonus. This if he just gets an assist this weekend, he will get bonus.
I was going to say this was obviously an exception, but yeah.
Because Ryan Yates will foul Maddison at least 18 times in the game.
Yeah.
At least 18 times. So yeah, that will be
Forest midfielder ex Leicester. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And he doesn't need to worry about Solanke stealing any bonus points, does he?
No, Solanke finds ways not to get as many as he needs. But yeah, on to Liverpool. It's, I mean, in my mind, I am sitting there and saying, obviously, you've got two weights in, and then you've got Trent and Mo. It does feel weird not owning, especially when they're playing Leicester. I'm like, oh my God, how could you go in with just Mo? I've long eyed up Jota for this weekend, and I'm not going there. That's definitely not one for me. But I am starting to consider Diaz. But again, because Diaz still means I can afford Trent. So I could just go whole hogging on this weekend and do -4, Rico. Might, bizarrely, if Rico was league to starting, I might even just take Colwill back out again. And keep Rico and do Colwill and Saka to Trent, and because I think once I'd have Trent in and I've got Gabriel in and I've got Anthony Robinson and I've got Rico and I've got Mikalenko, I'm like, what do I need Colwill for? I don't really know that I do. So yeah, it could even be the case that I do it anyway to get Trent in. But Diaz, some of the things about the short term, so the bookings, you know, Gabriel Jesus, people are going to talk about, but Gabriel Jesus somehow, without playing any minutes, on 4 bookings, which is really impressive. But Cody Gakpo's on 4 bookings. Gravenberch's on 4 bookings. Darwin Núñez is on 4 bookings. Szoboszlai's on 4 bookings. And Trent's on 3 bookings. Because they had the game postponed against Everton, they've still got 3 games to play. If you had players that were on 4 bookings, would you play them home to Leicester?
Probably not. Who's after that?
Away to West Ham.
Yeah, no, I'll probably wait for the West Ham game. And you definitely don't want them banned for United at home, do you?
And you don't want to ban for United at home, but they've got to get through to all those 3 games.
Yeah.
I think Diaz minutes, like, you're going to get those 3 games, I reckon. Because you're going to rotate the other ones around him. You can't, like, Darwin. And if they don't and they play him and they get booked, then they can't play at all the next game. And Diaz is a minutes monster. Like, so what we are seeing with Diaz, he isn't actually, you know, we talk about a lot of them about 65 and 25 is kind of your game with Liverpool players, but he's not. He is 90 or 25. So as opposed to being the guy that over every, you know, out of those games he plays them, but he'll start at least 2 out of 3 and he'll get 90 minutes in the games he does. Now, when he doesn't, he'll play 25 minutes for you. But players don't return every game week. Just treat the one like a 2 and he blanked. That's that like, but the minutes, he's never going to get there. If you go on review, for example, how many minutes do you reckon review have got down for Diaz?
71.
68.
Danny?
60, 64.
56.
Thought it'd be lower. Yeah.
56, mate. You're like it's the grassiest pick on earth. Like he's never getting anywhere near. No one's massaging it to that world. But he might just play every week. Klopp played him like 20 games in a row once. He does no issue. He played him midweek, played him weekend, literally just played him every single game, every single minute. He's got the ability to do it, and he's not going away anytime soon. For me, if you're going Liverpool, he's the standout guy. And what I have to balance off is, so this is the option because you guys have got Trent. Is it worth taking a minute's risk on, say, a Maddo or a Diaz rather than your Odegaards and Brunos if it gets you Trent?
I mean, what's difficult is that Danny and I have been still. I think we've held from game week 1, right, Trent? Both of us. But so we're in this situation. You have that awful thing of we've sat there waiting for it to be rewarded for this kind of level of patience. This high quality decision not to go in for the 8 glories of this world and that sort of thing. And of course, we've been rewarded with virtually nothing. It's been a real paltry set of returns. So it's quite hard to advise people. But of course, this is the time to get back in. And of course, you'll come in, Baker, with all the glory, whilst we sit there through all the pain. So maybe it is. What I will say is, and we'll talk about this when we go through teams later on. But for me, I've got kind of 3 name shortlist for replacing Saka, and he's not on it. But if I was going down the more adventurous route, if I was taking the risk, DS is the man that I would go to with the risk. There's no doubt about it. The other people are all 90-minute people.
Oh, okay.
He's the one. If you're going to go down that route, if you have the stomach for it, if you ignored my little speech about if you have to wait for a league, blah blah blah. If you can ignore all that and just have fun with your life and do things like that, go for it by all means. I can actually afford Odegaard or Bruno and Diaz this week, so you can try and persuade me later on. Maybe
you've got the free
oh, it's horrible.
transfers. So then, do we need to go that way then? Is one of your other guys Odegaard?
Have we done Arsenal? I guess we can come to that a bit in a bit. But
yeah,
he's in the conversation that we'll have. Oh, you put it up now, so I have to keep going.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Keep going. I think the problem is, right, and I'm guessing, most people by this point have probably taken a look at all of the, Arsenal game, whether it's highlights or otherwise, and when you watch those, it's hard to be persuaded, right? Because he's not the guy finishing the chances. He's not even the guy necessarily right in amongst it, laying it off and so on and so forth. So I know that we can be persuaded with the corners, with the probable penalties and all the rest of it. But you still can't ignore that a lot of the time he's relatively deep and he's not, if you're a person that goes through and looks through all the statistics from the previous games and that sort of thing, it's hard to be persuaded on that score. But he's in the conversation simply because, again, the fixtures are excellent. So it's not an issue there. A lot of people with many transfers have got the kind of Odegaard to Bruno switch in, 3 or 4 game weeks time. They've got that luxury move, etc. So it's definitely in the conversation. He is one of the names, for sure.
Is he a favourite?
I don't know. The problem is, right, we come back to the beginning of what we discussed earlier, and I said about players that I worry about not owning, that I can't fit in, and he's not one of them. I'm never that worried about it because I know that he's a 2-2-2, 16-2. It seems to be that guy. Whether he turns into being the, 7, 8, 10, 2, that type of guy, I don't know. Maybe this period will be him, but there's still some uncertainties, but he's definitely not the favorite, but he's on the list and more. Well, if someone can talk me into it, I'll be happy to consider it until the deadline.
Adam, you were looking at him.
I was looking. I think there's a little bit more to unpack here with Arsenal. Obviously, this is obviously a very good result for them. There's a lot of players playing for places right now. I feel like in Arsenal, it doesn't feel like the most stable sort of environment. They're not necessarily playing a fixed front five every week. And so, Havertz is trying to put his name out there. Hey, Jesus in the last 2 weeks last 2 games has scored 5 goals. Martinelli's been on the periphery for a while. Declan Rice is not normally a goal scorer, but, obviously he comes in, scores this weekend. People are trying to put a name to themselves at the moment. And, they go into this game with Palace with a specific plan. Saka gets injured after 24 minutes and things change. So I can understand Odegaard, obviously, last few weeks, he's obviously not been at the peak of his powers as he's sort of come back in, as Saka was pretty much the focal point, right? Everything sort of, all roads led to Saka, as it were. And so in the past, when Odegaard's been most effective, even when he came straight back, we saw how effective he was with Saka. From an FPL perspective, maybe not. But I think there's a way that he can be more involved and be more sort of the focal point, or not a focal point, but generally he should be part of the attacking plan. If I'm going to sort of be very specific about it, for their forthcoming games. So I think there's opportunity for him to come good over the next few weeks. I think there's, he's almost certainly going to be on penalties. He's not going to be handing those over to anyone. That's for sure. And when you've got players like Martinelli who's coming in, he is tricky. He does like to take the ball into the box. He likes to cause defenders to make mistakes. And so, there's opportunities there for penalties. Jesus the same. Jesus is the same. He loves to work in tight spaces. He loves to move the ball around quickly, and he loves to dribble in tight spaces. There's opportunities again there to be kicked. I just think there's an opportunity. I don't think it's the worst. I see a lot of. Well, you sent me a bunch of Arsenal fans that were basically saying he's been absolutely terrible, and fine. I mean, they've watched more. They've watched more than I have. Spurs fan. I don't watch loads, so. Yeah. But I still think there's an opportunity there, and I still think he's a possibility. But there are, as you say, like there's others putting their hands up. In this, it may be a case because most people are on like double Arsenal defense. I'm not at the moment. Like most people have like a Raya and Gabriel. Some people are Gabriel Saliba. Some people are Gabriel Saliba and Raya. Like I wouldn't be ripping up anything to go, which is fine because you don't need to deal with Saka. But if you have got Saka, I wouldn't. They're fine. But I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be rushing, I guess, to triple up. But I think there's a chance.
Yeah.
I think there is an opportunity there.
I mean, look, pedigree, proven player, all the good stuff. If you put the ball in on that cutback last week against Everton, then probably be in everyone's teams.
Yeah.
As soon as that goes in, but he didn't. And as I said, he didn't. Not only didn't he got pulled off against Everton for being pretty much the worst player on the pitch. And Arsenal fans literally just search Odegaard on Twitter. Just search it, see the comments. They're hating him. Like a lot of them are blaming his wife. Apparently they've got a new young baby, and that's the reason that he's not getting enough sleep. So his wife's getting a fair amount of stick about that one. But the talk is that since they've had the baby, he's been absolutely dreadful, and he has been absolutely dreadful. Like every game, he's been dreadful. Like so, we want the magic that he's going to be brilliant. This is the problem. We're going to have some element of punt. Probably, I think Bruno's a much less punty a pick than this. Like, so for me, Odegaard or Bruno wouldn't be close in that sense. I would be Bruno all day long over that. But Bruno doesn't have home to Ipswich next.
Yeah,
you might get enough points out of home to Ipswich that you could just
transfer to Bruno
after.
Just transfer to Bruno afterwards.
Yeah, it might be enough. But I still wouldn't also be surprised without Saka if they went to Brentford and lost, and they went to Brighton and lost 2 weeks after that.
I'd be surprised if they went to Brentford. I would be surprised if they went to Brighton and lost.
The thing
would not be.
That's a big thing with Arsenal is we don't know really what they're going to look like. It's really interesting with Arsenal at the moment because they've already seemed to have made this conscious decision to maybe approach the game differently in this Palace game. Where, I remember John McKenzie touching it when he came on your pod and he talked about the fact that they were playing a high variance game of being really controlled and just very few goals. And they seem to take a different approach here and just be like, we're just going to outscore you, which I think is probably a good bet. It seems to be a very different approach. And then now you take Saka out of the team. And when you take Saka out of the team, you lose an awful lot of control anyway. You're taking a guy out who makes you a very good defensive team. Everything that goes through anywhere near his side of the pitch means that everything is optimal. Everything's the right decision. There's no giving the ball away cheaply. You get time to get the players up the pitch. Everything changes when you take Saka out of the team. And it's probably going to look a lot more chaotic. I don't know what that's going to mean necessarily for Odegaard, but suddenly you've got a front three potentially because Jesus is pretty much undroppable at the moment. Just that would probably be very short term knowing him. But when you've got a front three of Jesus, Trossard, and Martinelli probably on the right, this is and then Havertz in the 8. This is a wildly more chaotic, unpredictable team that's probably going to have to play more direct. What does that mean for Odegaard? Who knows?
And they're 4 goal scorers. None of those are big assist guys. They're 4 goal
scorers. 4 goal
Trossard,
scorers, and then
Havertz,
you've got Odegaard. Yeah, exactly. And you've got Odegaard, who isn't. We talked about he's not that sort of player. Odegaard's returns come almost as a byproduct of being just incredibly good at football. Whereas someone like Bruno Fernandes, if you're comparing them, come as a function of the fact that he really sets out to be the guy who scores the goals and gets the assists. It's totally different approaches to the game. And obviously, it's kind of a funny one because the reason why Odegaard's talked about so much at the moment is because he's so big on the models. That's the bottom line. At the moment, he's massive on the models this week. And first of all, that's because they've got Ipswich first, like you say. I'm not. Yeah, but I'm not. I do think he's on pens, okay? Because of course he's going to be on pens because we've seen him share them with Saka so far. But again, I don't think he. Adam might be right, and I'm not completely disagreeing with you, Adam. But I'm not totally convinced by that because again, the type of person that he is a team player. Now, if you take Havertz for example, Havertz is probably the best penalty taker on the team. He takes the penalties for Germany. I think his record is something like he's taken 21 penalties and scored 20 in his career, and the last one he missed was about 4 years ago. This guy's cold, and if Havertz,
and he's now competing for his place.
And he's competing for his place. Now, I'm not saying that Havertz is going to be on penalties, but obviously when the main man's taken out, Saka's not the penalty taker anymore. That's much more likely that Kai might just be like, oh, do you mind if I take this one? You know what I mean? And then O's not the type of guy being like, nah, bro. He's a team player, so he'd be like, yeah, okay, you have this one. It's probably, in other words, I think also his pen share is probably too high on the models. So the models are probably overrating him on that basis as well. I would not be surprised at all if the best penalty taker on the team steps up and takes one, whether it's the first one or the next one. So, but I mean, that aside, he probably would have been my second choice, behind Bruno. Purely because you've got a huge head start when you're playing every single game. I know we've talked about a lot of these players. You can roll the dice on other players, but you're taking a massive box when you're taking the number 10 of the best team in the country, or the joint best team in the country, whatever, who plays every single game. So you can't go majorly wrong. But it's not. I'd never go into any game feeling like this could be a 10-pointer, 13-pointer for Odegaard, and that's just not for me.
What about going cheap and going Sar?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I thought Rich was going to mention that because obviously I think he might have been one of the ones he was considering because again, Sar, as you mentioned,
okay, so
he does tick the minutes box.
Yeah, he's the other one to meet the 3. I mean, he looks great at the moment, doesn't he? He's clearly full of confidence. He's starting to look like the player that we knew that he, the guy that was getting the links to Liverpool and that sort of thing when he was in the Premier League before. Physically looks incredibly strong. He just looks much more confident in the last few games. What was really interesting, I mean, we talked about this on our kind of last pod, and he, despite the kind of real lack of minutes over the course of the season, he'd already matched Iwobi and Rodgers in that kind of 5 to 6 million category of midfielder for XGI. Within, I don't know what it is, presumably about half the games, maybe less. So it's ridiculous how well he's performing. The last kind of few, he's racking up incredible numbers. I think it's worth to say expectations should be kept reasonably, modest. I don't think he's going to be performing at this kind of rate of return, but he is playing as a forward at the moment, so you've got to take that seriously.
It's a potential segue though, isn't it? If you've got, so a caveat for you is, if you brought Sarr in, who do you think's your next midfielder off the books if you went in and changed your midfielder?
Yeah, exactly that. No, this is the problem.
You'd keep Sarr over Enzo. You'd keep Sarr over Enzo. Once Sarr's in there, you'd likely keep him over Enzo, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
If we all got a free transfer for our cheap midfielder and said, could you swap him for Sarr now? And it was just an extra transfer that they gave us for Christmas, we'd all do it. If you had Semenyo and you said to me, can I swap him for Sarr for nothing, I'd do it. If you said to me, even Rodgers, if you said to me, can I swap him for Sarr right now, I'd do it. in the sense, and if you got in, so if you did make that move, you can be like, well, actually, because there's no definite standout this week, I go to Sar, I can wait a week, see how it works out, and then I can move the other guy and keep Sar.
Well, weirdly enough, one of the reasons not to get Sar is, and this is just personal to my kind of situation, is to protect me from my own bad behavior. Because exactly what you said, Baker, is that as soon as I get him in, I'm already thinking as, oh, I've got 4 or 5 million to upgrade João Pedro. I've got 4 or 5 million or whatever it is to upgrade Rodgers. I'm already booking in transfers that I really don't need to make. So in a way, one of these kind of this is why the kind of 8 million mark for managers who have a relatively settled side is quite handy, because it's that amount where, let's say you hear Saka's actually back on the training pitch within 2 to 3 weeks. Brilliant. You can just put him back in. But equally, if not, you've got a couple of million, which is that nice amount we can go back to Rodgers to Mbeumo. You got João Pedro to Solanke or Mateta, something like that. And that's the kind of route that I'm looking at the moment. So that it's that kind of semi-appealing, like just a gentle tickle rather than
I don't mind
a full-fledged behavior change.
Danny said it earlier about Eze, didn't you? You said about the fact of once you realise that ain't the one, this isn't the season to muck about. Like, and that's how I've been all season with it. And I do think the more I play into that way, it doesn't help me build transfers up, but it's definitely helping me because the good are so good. There's so many good teams now, and actually, when there's a good fixture, then you've got that team in it. You're like, they're going to smash, and they are. I think if people aren't sure, going Sar is no bad. It's no bad because you can go somewhere else back off it.
Yeah, agree.
Cool.
I've really just really liked what I've seen from him as well. Just a little more of an edge. It's like some of those chances that he missed, the ones in this game where I think was it this game? I think it was this game, not the cup game, where kind of Mateta had a shot or something, and it was for the rebounds. He was the one there. He was going, "No, I'm not waiting outside on the wings. I don't care who else is here. I'm going to step up and score." Yeah, and he's a big guy, and these diving headers, and he could have easily had another couple of returns, and that sort of made me think twice again, try and readjust the player in my mind. I thought this guy's not messing about at the moment. I don't know how long it's going to last, but he's not messing about.
Nah.
We said we were going to be quick. We've done 4 games in an hour and a half.
Yeah, we're not doing 10 games. No one cares about the rest of them. Is there any other games that anyone cares about?
So the games that we haven't done, so we haven't obviously done, we haven't talked about Cunha. We don't need to, I guess, because he's going to get banned soon.
And people that don't own him don't want to talk about him.
Yeah. Fulham, Southampton, nothing really to discuss there, is there? Because if you bring a player in there, if you've brought a player in already, then that's kind of just it, right?
Yeah, and you'll be the beauty of it for most people that have got Fulham guys is hopefully you potentially bench him anyway this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chelsea away, so you get a week to work it out anyway.
I kind of did just want to touch on Brighton. I mean, I only wanted to touch on Brighton from my personal perspective because we've spoken ad nauseum before, about the fact that we would only double up on attackers where teams are consistently exceeding 2xg. How many times do you think Brighton have exceeded 2xg this season?
Not many.
Twice.
I mean,
twice. So they've done it once against City and once against United, and that's it. 2 ridiculous games to do it in, but
I mean, we've talked about a lot. You could just get him.
Just makes no sense.
You could stage it, couldn't you? You could go Saka to somebody that enables you to go Matoma to one of the other guys next week. But yeah, if nobody's talking about your guy when they've got all the money to spend, you're on the wrong guy. I'm
on the wrong guy. Yeah, Matoma's not the guy.
But he might be just for one more week.
Brighton are a confusing team, aren't they? But while we're touching on that game, Rich might want to talk about West Ham briefly and Bowen, because I watched that game, and Bowen is, thinking about those midfielders to replace. He looked very sharp. He looks very good at the moment to me, and I've heard people say, he's only got Southampton, but actually, Liverpool is the bad game after Southampton, but Man City away is not that bad a game for Bowen. Not right now, because they are a shambles. But Bowen looks pretty sharp to me at the moment. We got you there, Rich, or you froze for a second there?
I thought he was just deep in thought.
I wasn't sure if deep in thought froze, but I think you did.
Oh yeah. No, I'm still here. It's very hard to kind of advise people to kind of back what we are at the moment. It's just it's an absolute basket case. Behind the scenes. I told Danny the other week on a pod that we've got this story about Jean-Marie Todibo, sorry, having a kind of fight with Lopetegui in the dressing room. We got players who want out that only bought in the summer. I think it's Rodriguez, Fulkrug. By the way, when we talked about Duran earlier, I'm still remembering the sliding doors moment where we decided not to pay the asking price for Duran. I went to Fulkrug, sort of £27 million for a 31-year-old who's seen about 100 minutes on the pitch. I mean, it's an absolute disaster.
Yeah, that was big.
Bowen's consummate professional. He's a club legend, all in his own time. I mean, it'd be very hard for me to kind of knock him. I absolutely love him, obviously. Yeah. So, but I don't know. It's not for me. Still not good.
That's that.
Fair enough.
Gordon, Newcastle. Murphy, Newcastle.
Why does Murphy not play every single? Why is Murphy not nailed? Is Murphy nailed? What is he? He's not really a player that I've ever kind of spent any time thinking about, and I don't really understand what's happened with him.
No one has.
Great.
But he's like there's so when he's I don't. This is what I mean is I don't know if he's a streaky player. Does he have patches where he doesn't play as well? Because to me, he's like he's one of these players you just naturally underestimate. They're so much better with him in the team on the right because they've got another whole player that you have to deal with. It's just as much of a handful as Gordon, basically. And
it's been a while as well, hasn't he? Do you remember that cross for that header that was about 2 years ago where he put the cross in? He literally Almiron had been playing all the time. Almiron started going off. It was when Almiron was having that season. He came in and he put the most unbelievable ball onto Wilson's head, and we were just like, that's one of the nicest balls I've ever seen. But we talked about it for some time. But he's just has that. He whether it's crossing, whether it's shooting, his end product is just remarkable.
So his last four starts, right? The minutes aren't fantastic, right? 73 minutes, 59 minutes, 64 minutes, and 63 minutes. But his numbers in that period are just ridiculous. So he's racks up half an XGI in the first game, 0.8, 0.9, 0.9. He's doing that in 2/3 of a game, like every week.
Yeah.
He's basically got an expected goal involvement in 2/3 of every game that in 2/3 of a game every week.
Yeah.
So you're not getting the minutes out of him, but
when there's Barnes, there's always going to be minutes issues. That's the problem. There's always going to be Barnes sitting around, and what happens there?
He's always been like that though. Like he's been there for like 5 seasons.
Yeah.
But he's always had it. He plays like 20 to 30 games, and he starts 10 to 15 of them. That's it.
Should be noted his previous team was Norwich, and this was away to Ipswich. So it meant something. It meant something.
He's just gone 7, 13, 13 though.
Yeah. I just think, we talked about these players where it's like we could jump on them now or jump on them 21. I'll look at 21, thanks, for Newcastle. Other than that, we're just happy with Isak because it's Isak.
Yeah, but I think what we're saying is, I think Murphy playing is making Isak a much better pick already, and possibly Gordon as well. But Newcastle just look a lot better when he's playing. So
he is. And look, home to Villa. Villa don't keep many clean sheets. Away to Man United, and then away to Tottenham. I don't think either of us here that would be thinking that's an easy game for our teams. Is when Newcastle are on, they're on.
Yeah,
and they score goals.
What I like about Newcastle at the moment is they feel like they're becoming more predictable at home as well, especially. So, like, as someone I've been on Hall for a while, and obviously I've got a bit of a question mark coming up. We didn't touch on Munoz at all. We just talked about Palace, and Munoz is obviously going to become a feature now in the next few weeks potentially. And I'm looking at what spot I might free up for Munoz because I've got Robinson, I've got Hall, and I've got a cheapo. And Hall more with every week that goes by. And obviously, in terms of his fixtures, the good games that he's got some good home games within that. Where as long as you've got,
you just be getting hauled back by 21.
Exactly. So you're that confident with Newcastle at home at the moment to kind of win comfortably and get a clean that I can't wait to go into 21, 22,
3 home games in 4. Wolves, Bournemouth, away to Southampton, home to Fulham. It's like the best run of 4 anyone's ever seen.
Yeah, and then Forest at home, not after City. They feel very predictable at home at the moment. I don't know how long it'll last, but I like that a lot. They feel predictable in defence and attack. So
It's going to be hard picking defender spots. It's my only anxiety a little bit around the do I push on a Trent is I'm like there's they're okay. All these budget guys are okay. Like if you roll out Hall every week, you're happy. If you roll out Robinson, you're happy. You roll out Munoz every week, you're happy. Colwell's got good fixtures. He's always playable. Rico, if he's playing, he's got good fixtures. Not any points. And then there's Gabriel still sitting around. Like it is difficult. It is difficult.
Do we want to move on to? Do we want to move on to like looking at next week's game specifically as well, though? Because it just gives us a bit of a frame around it as well, just to help us, look at that. And so Odegaard's the main man here, and what we're looking at, the data from Rob T, early data. This came out this morning, I think it was. So this will be the 23rd of December. Big ones that stick out, obviously, Liverpool and Arsenal's attacking and defensive numbers. So Liverpool 3.65 expected goals with a 50% clean sheet. Arsenal 3 expected goals with a 52% clean sheet. City 2.4 goals with a 44% clean sheet. Chance of a clean sheet. I'm not sure I believe that. But and then everything else is below. Well, Chelsea 32%, 2.35. And then everything else is kind of below. I see Brighton there, 2.15. I say expected to score, expected 2.15. That hasn't happened. That hasn't happened this season. They haven't got above 2.1 all season. It's nonsense. Quite frankly, it's just nonsense. I was looking at it earlier. It's just mad.
Yeah. I mean, the four big boys, like, realistically, like, they are. It's goals, isn't it? It's goals, it's goals, goals, goals. Palmer, I've seen about Palmer, obviously, he'll be over 100% owned for us every week at the moment, won't he? But that's not good. like home to Fulham. Yeah, it's tough. Anyone considering the triple captain on Mo?
Not me.
Not you, you've used it.
yeah, I'm not about it. It was interesting though because I think I looked at Top Vam or something earlier, and he had Salah's expected points were like over 10. I know it's not the same on.
Were they?
Yeah, they were.
Really?
Yeah, I know because obviously I was thinking about review doesn't have it as high because I was thinking about comparing it to Haaland's 9-pointers. It was roughly 9. He was predicted, wasn't it, when lots of people triple captained it? But yeah, Top Fam's got him over 10 this week.
Well, what's his hold on. What is his goal involvement for the season nowadays?
Well, it's actual.
Because if it's 4, yeah.
He's actually averaging over 10 points a game, isn't he? Because with 17 games in, he's got over 170 points.
He's 16 games in as well.
Oh, right. Yeah, of course.
yeah. So he's actually averaging 11. Because 176 would be 11. He's on 177, right?
Yeah.
So he's had 70% goal involvement this season of Liverpool's goals. 70%.
70%.
So basically tracking 3 returns in this game.
And the other thing, obviously, is Boxing Day. And if ever, it's a bit like pre-season. I say this sort of thing all the time. If there's anyone you want to rely on to have a nice cozy day in on Christmas Day without any alcohol, without doing anything silly, in bed by
Is this why you're
10:30.
telling me not to get Foden?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, X naughty, X naughty goes much higher than the old Christmas celebrations. But if there's one person you can rely on who's going to be fresh and had a nice breakfast on Boxing Day morning, it's Mo Salah.
The downside being is that it seems like 25 is now the double week, not 24, which is a better double for Salah.
Yeah, it's even better. Yeah, roughly 50-50 is what I heard in terms of the chances. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but
But
you got to wait for you got to wait for the double.
Maybe it's Assman. Maybe it's Assman then though.
Maybe
Do you get your triple captain done now and then just Assman it up?
I mean, again, similar to one of the reasons why people played it on Haaland was about the knowns, wasn't it? So we do immediately know that, he's fit and it's an incredible fixture. I'm just kind of, playing devil's advocate towards myself to try and open my mind a little bit, because I won't be playing it, but there's a huge chunk of knowns there it is nice.
There is. It's about 8 o'clock as well, so it's a long way past the deadline. Not that they will rest him, but they might.
Wasn't it game week 17 or 19 2 years ago when he missed a pen? No one reads into that shit, but seriously, but that did happen.
Well, yeah, it was.
It was against Leicester.
I didn't own him for that game.
I capped him.
Wasn't it Boxing Day a few years ago when everybody or a lot of people had him captain, or some people missed the deadline and left it on by accident, and it was against Palace and he didn't start, but then he came on and got like 17 points off the bench.
16 points in half an hour. Yeah.
I took the captain off him, but I just still started in that game. Yeah.
I can't remember what I did, but I remember the week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, the other thing just to add as well on that, and again, I know it's really obvious, but it's important to think about these teams, about what we know, how we know they're going to set up. And Leicester, it's not just that Leicester are really bad, it's that they're really bad and we know how they're going to set up in this basic like 4-4-2 or whatever it is that Rude's working, where they just, they can't defend. So yeah, Leicester are crazy at the moment.
What are you thinking, Richie?
Yeah, sorry, I had a bit of lagging going on, so I do apologize for that.
No worries.
But it's I wouldn't be certainly. It's very difficult, isn't it? Because it's obviously a fixture that you want to bring in your kind of third Liverpool for and that sort of thing. In terms of triple captain, I can see why this is a pretty decent single game week opportunity. So I wouldn't put anyone off it for sure. But yeah, not for me.
We want the upside. We want as much as we can get out of it from those doubles.
I like double game weeks. I like them too much. That's just me.
That's fair.
From that, it's a pretty good week.
Definitely.
It's a pretty good week. Well, we're on the home run. As I said, as we talked about last week, is that all the teams you kind of want to pick the players from are all away every 1 week, and then they're all home the next week. But it does mean, like, it makes perma-cap Salah even easier, because and harder to take on, because he's at home when everyone else at home. So when Palmer would have a good fixture, when Haaland's got a good fixture, was Saka a good fixture, he's also facing the fact that Mo's at home, and it's very, very difficult to go against him.
It's I'm just looking at those fixtures as well and just thinking about captaincy. Fulham is a game that I really don't like now. I'm having to start Palmer and Enzo this week, very likely. I'm not looking forward. I don't expect anything from Enzo now all of a sudden in that particular game. But it's just worth noting, with Fulham, there's been a couple of little shifts. Fulham, two things I heard from managers just recently this weekend and last weekend, and it was Brentford and Fulham. Both the managers have talked about wanting more clean sheets and not being very happy about giving away these goals. And obviously Brentford have been full gung-ho. But I just noted as well that the Fulham boss said made that point on Saturday, and then they followed it through. I know they were only playing Southampton, but it's always nice when a manager makes that point about wanting clean sheets, and then the very next game they get a clean sheet. And they're just a very good team, and especially so away from home, even the way they set up. So
yeah,
you've got two really good defensive teams in Everton and Fulham against some of the big dogs. So again, it just all leads to Liverpool.
Yeah, I've got a little decision to make on Colwill versus Anthony Robinson, and it looks simple. Not quite sure.
Yeah, well, you know that Colwill's not involved in the 2.35, whereas you think Anthony Robinson
and not
might
involved
be.
in the bonus either.
Yeah,
like Tosin was big boy on bonus on the weekend, but it's just never gonna be. It's never gonna be Colwill unless he scores.
Yeah, whereas Anthony is in that conversation.
Let's
look at where we are then. Let's look at where we are, and we can. So my team's on the left here at the moment. What I'm looking at potentially. Yours on the right there, Baker. So mine at the moment kind of reads, I know this is all from FPL team, so it's all either transfers planning, not yet confirmed, all that sort of stuff. Baker's looking at mine for the first time and seeing Maddison in there. So Sanchez in goal, Hall, Gabriel and Trent, with Maddison, Palmer, Mitoma and Salah, Cap, Isak, João Pedro and Wissa, which leaves Johnston, Porro, Rogers and Castagna on the bench. Feels like quite a strong outfield bench. I mean,
So
I just don't find a way to fit
and Trent for Saka and
Lewis. Get him out.
Rico.
Such a fraud. Such a fraud. Like genuinely comes back from a suspension and then just pulls over. I don't know. Was it Rodgers or Tielemans? Just pulled him over. Like you're just in the wrong position, mate. Just get out of my team. I'm quite. You know, I like an angry transfer. I'm quite set on Rico to Trent. But to make that happen,
it's good to the bold move for it because I keep looking at it and saying it really is the thing that I should do.
I mean, at the same time, I've had 3 weeks. I've had 3 weeks without a hit, and I've had 3 green arrows. The weeks I've taken hits in the past, I've had red arrows. So, like, how often can I keep setting myself up for good runs when I just keep making transfers?
Yeah,
it's not conducive. But that's where I am. That's where I am at the moment.
I mean, I'll say that is.
I wouldn't be regretting that move for a second, Alan.
Well said. Thanks, Richie. I needed that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, can I ask? I don't know whether we mentioned it earlier. How did Castagna look at the weekend? Did anyone actually watch him closely?
Wasn't involved in anything, really.
No. Almost gave a penalty away at the end. He tried his very best to give away a penalty at the end.
Yeah, but otherwise, it wasn't really involved. So,
yeah.
Do I love having him in there? No. Did he free up a little bit of money for me? Yes. So,
yeah.
Which I didn't. Which inevitably, actually, I didn't need because Saka got injured. Cheers.
And he's your 5th defender.
And he is my 5th defender. This is true.
Yeah.
I mean, but why have I got the other defender on the bench from the worst defense in the league right now? Like,
Wolves at home next week, mate. All be good.
On to you, mate.
Yeah, so I haven't made any moves at the moment. So Rico Lewis isn't on my bench at the moment. Anthony Robinson is.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
I will be transferring Saka out. It will either be a similar world to this, where it'll be a cheaper guy to enable me to go and get Trent in, or it'll be Phil Foden. That's where I'm likely to land with it. As I said, I won't be doing anything, no matter what the price changes are. I won't be doing anything till Boxing Day morning, in the hope that there is some kind of City League. I know that's not the way to play, but it's the way I like to play.
So if Cunha's banned tomorrow, what do you do then?
If Cunha's banned tomorrow, then I have a bit more decisions to make. I think the easy guy for me, I love playing players against Spurs, is I probably would potentially look at Wood. I can also, any of those guys that we've talked about, maybe even, I haven't checked the money, but maybe even if I went Foden, I probably could still afford Cunha to Jackson as well. If I want to go that way, it's pretty easy to get the money to it. So I'm expecting I need some form of hit this week. It's my tip back in the fruit machine. You know what I mean? It's been a ridiculous run. If you keep scrambling and doing well, at some point you have to hand a red back. So that's what it is.
Fair enough. Yeah, Danny, you've made your move.
Yeah, made my move. Just sort of decided to be decisive on it. Kind of what I've been doing this season. It was never really going to be any other way for me, so I just went. Saka was dropping on Sunday, so again, all season, one of the things I've been able to control is a little bit of the team value stuff. I've given a little bit back recently by selling Bruno and Rodgers and stuff, but I've not actually looked. I don't check what my team value is or anything like that, but I know it's good. So yeah, I mean, again, don't feel like hugely excited about Fernandez, but to me, it feels like a position where I want to put it away. Other people, which is absolutely fine, are looking at it. Like Baker's talked about a Foden and as an exciting possibility for space. Because it doesn't feel that exciting to me, I just want to put it away, put it in a drawer and forget about it and think about players that I want in future weeks and think about having a load of transfers again. So it just feels like a bit of a survival week. I mean, obviously I've got a good team, but I don't feel, as I said, the Chelsea boys, Enzo don't feel great. Pedro's still not liking what I'm seeing. Hall's got Villa, which it's they're not going to clean against Villa. I wouldn't have thought. So yeah,
You three have all got the same defence, haven't you? Gab, Trent, Hall.
Have we? Yeah.
It would be, but I'd have Sanchez instead of Raya.
Yeah. So yeah, nothing particularly exciting from me. I'm hoping to see Baker go Foden just so we can have a bit more fun in the group chat and a bit of a difference. But don't know. I suspect he might be coming to join me on the old Bruno train.
I think he's quite distant third.
Really?
I think Foden and Diaz are a long way.
Oh, okay. Well, I'd like to see you go Foden or Diaz, and no pressure, but that'll be good. Yeah.
It's how much I want Trent. It's basically it's going to be how much I want Trent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finish with you then,
What about
Richie.
you, Rich?
Well, I suppose really I should be doing the exciting things, right? As the guy with 3 free transfers and a kind of bench that runs fairly deep and all the rest of it. But I'll inevitably disappoint you. But yeah, I think I'm fairly happy with the squad except for a couple of spots. So obviously Saka needs replacing. We can come to that in a second. Lewis will go one way or another, but it will be quite easy not to do that this week potentially. So him and Hall probably vying for a starting spot. I'd probably like another week looking at Crystal Palace. So I mean, I don't really need any kind of defender to replace Lewis when you think about it. There's no 4 million there. So it goes way deep. Milenkovic is a ridiculous player. He's been great. And he's really I should be playing him every week.
Well.
Oh, this is ridiculous. So it's quite hard to find a way to play him the best of times. In fact, to be honest with you, he probably outschools the fourth or fifth midfielder a lot of the weeks. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is Saka will go to someone that will enable me a little bit of wiggle room next week. So the idea is, for example, I could go to a Bruno or an Odegaard, and I've got enough money to do João Pedro to Jackson if I want to. So Jackson is an option. Obviously, there's an issue with that still, the yellow cards, blah, 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 but I can get Solanke and Mateta in that spot. Equally, I'll have enough money to upgrade the fifth midfielder to a Sar, someone like that. I mean, Buemo, even a Diaz if I wanted to. But the problem is with that, you'd want to do it this week, right? So yeah, it's probably just a Saka replacement this week. And then I'll have 3 again next week. I love Saka in the transfers now because I like Baker. I've taken so long to be able to do it. If I can do it, I'm enjoying this brief period in the sunshine.
I'm never doing it. It's never happening. It's not.
But yeah, that's probably how it is.
The value of the ass man is going to become so big that you're going to have to start stacking transfers.
Absolutely not.
The value of ass.
The value of ass.
No intention of it. I genuinely have no intention of it. I understand everyone will want to do it, but I just still feel every single week at the moment there's really good value in making transfers. So,
I mean, it's worked. I mean, it's obviously working.
Yeah, it's a streaky game, FPL. So when it's running, and when it goes bad, then it's a big problem because I've got no transfers to fix it. And this is a big deal. Like, at no point in my brain did I think, oh, will Saka be a thing I've got to play for? We've got 2 game weeks coming up in the space of a week. It could be a big problem. It's wildcard in 20. Fine.
Is it 20 we get it back? Yeah.
Yeah, we're only 2 weeks away from getting the wildcard.
Got to work out when to play other stuff. Well, that's the non-important stuff out of the way. How's our prep for Christmas?
Pretty small for me, so it's not yeah, just me. I only have my parents over, so there's only 5 of us, so it's not huge numbers. Hopefully, all good.
Happy days.
I've just spent the whole day wrapping today, which I can't stand doing, but it's all done now. I think that's pretty much all the prep I've got to do. I just go around to my sister's house and she cooks for everyone, and I just drink nice drinks all day and eat turkey skin and bacon fat and sausages and just do a treasure hunt, do a little Secret Santa, just laughing.
Happy days.
No kids for me.
Same, and treasure hunt is the way for sure. Love it. But yeah, I'll be in the kitchen almost all day tomorrow, probably.
Treasure hunt.
Hand in the kitchen.
I've never heard treasure hunt on Christmas Day.
Oh yeah, we always do a treasure hunt every year. There's always been a treasure hunt. It's very serious.
I've never done that. But maybe something I need to introduce.
There you go.
It's the way.
What colour are you going for on the nails tomorrow?
Fuck off, man.
Get the nails out.
That is not happening.
Just
That is not
nails.
happening. You see those? So I was ready to press the buttons there. There you go. Beautiful.
Wow.
I don't know why I was turning them round, but yeah. That is magic of the elf. That's what happens when you have kids. The magic of the elf. But there we are. Game week 17 reviewed. Game week 18, Boxing Day. We'll try not to worry about it for 24 hours at least. And as Baker said, if you're watching on Christmas Day, send us a photo. If you've got coasters, and you've got like a tumbler or a mug or anything like that, send us a photo on Christmas Day. Just drop it in socials, tag us in it, and that would be amazing. And you boys have already got coasters and mugs and stuff, have you not?
Yeah, my coasters are downstairs. I should have brought them up, but yeah, I've got coasters.
Coasters, yeah, but would love a mug.
Well, okay, well, we will arrange that.
One day. You sent me enough stuff. I mean, this microphone is yours.
That's true. Where'd your webcam come from, Danny?
Exactly. I was going to say we've got all the stuff from Above Average. Baker gave me his camera, which is amazing, and he did all the research for my new microphone, which is incredible. So
we're just a cast off. We're below average.
yeah, you're our pod big brothers.
We'd like to help out.
I know how well we're doing. Well, at least how well one of us is doing. Danny never does bad. He never does bad. In a bloody mini league with Danny for about 5 years, I don't think I've ever come anywhere near him.
Mate, ever since we started doing the pod, I can't get near you.
Well, we definitely ain't getting near Danny then, mate, because nobody gets near him.
Well, I think we're pretty close right now, Baker. I'll say no more.
We'll see. Yeah, best not to say too much. But yeah, as I said, thank you to everyone that's watched this. Hope you have a wonderful Christmas. Danny, Rich, thanks for coming on. If you haven't done so already, make sure you check out FPL Last Resort over on YouTube. Make sure you go and subscribe to those guys. Subscribe to us. Hit the like button if you've enjoyed it. And we'll see you after the end of Game Week 18. Thanks very much, guys. Have a good one.
See you later.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Yes.